Hello, everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. How is everyone doing this evening? Happy and blessed Monday, and welcome back to OMB Reviews, to the channel. Welcome to the Welcome to Asgard podcast, episode 515, I believe. That's right, 515, where tonight we're back. Sorry again about having to cancel last week, but my voice was complete trash last week. Whole household was sick, dealing with illness. I caught a bit of it as well. It seemed like it could have been the cold. Maybe it was the coof. We didn't get tested because at this point, why does it even matter? Because the symptoms are essentially all the same anyway. And as long as everything else is totally fine, there's no reason to even really care much about the official diagnosis of it, but doing a lot better this week for sure, and definitely happy to have taken that day off and also to have rest over the weekend because it allowed for me to rest my voice to be ready for classes, which have officially started for me last Thursday, Friday, first full days of school, and now our first full week of school starting up this week. So thank you again for understanding and for putting up with also my inability to get a box office preview up for the weekend, but I was still able to get my box office breakdown out there, and very, very happy that that was able to get done. Anyway, thank you all again for being here. Please make sure to smash that like button, light up that fire button over on Odyssey, and smash the rumble button as well. And let's go ahead and say hello to the people in the chat. And yes, we started a little bit earlier tonight because I had noticed that the lovely Force of Light ladies had actually done their stream earlier. If I had to guess, it's probably because either one, they did not want to go up against the Elon Musk Donald Trump interview, or because they wanted to watch it. One or the other would be my guess. I honestly don't know. So if y'all were able to watch that stream, let me know if that sounds about right. I know that I'm starting my stream just a little bit earlier than usual, just by about 15 minutes, because I know that there are a lot of people that do want to listen to and watch that happen. Obviously, knowing how typical political interviews work, it'll be interesting to see if everything starts right on time. I also really honestly have not been following the news about this a whole lot because it's been really hard to keep up with things. I've been in full-on school mode, so I can't remember if this is going to be in Twitter Spaces, if this is going to be in Twitter Spaces with video for the first time, if this is just going to be through a live stream on Twitter through the first. Again, there's a lot of things I honestly just do not know, but I know there are, again, a lot of people who have a lot of interest in that, and so I wanted to at least be on for about 30 minutes before that starts up, so that way everybody has that chance if they wanted to stop by, say hello, and also go on to that. So let's say hello to the people we have in the chat. We did have some comments earlier on YouTube. Unfortunately, I did not have time to get the chat set up at home, but I see that Keely Chow was here saying hello to everybody pretty early on. So hello, Keely Chow. Thank you again for showing up early. Saying, don't give everyone the middle finger. How are you, Thor, Freya, Baby Sif, all doing? We're all doing just fine. Snorterpoopus Cuber was also in the chat saying, hello, humans and other quitters. What's going on, Snorterpoopus? He then went on to say, hello. Hello to you as well. Thanks for being here. And now we can start putting up the chats. And we have first Wendy Hunter. Wendy at 720 saying, sorry, I won't be able to watch live. I wish you all a good night and a good stream. Well, Wendy, hope that you are doing well. Thank you for stopping by and for dropping a like. Wayward Noodle in the chat. What's going on, Wayward Noodle? Thank you very much for being here. Let's see. Who else do we got? We got Mr. Wingster. What's up, Mr. Wingster? First, was it Captain Winkster, Captain Wink, Mr. Wink. Now it's Mr. Winkster. He's back at it. I'm about to make a name for myself out here, he says, and becomes a member at the Citizen of Asgard level. So thank you very much, Mr. Wingster, for joining at the Citizen of Asgard level. Enjoy extra bonus content. Check out the community tab to get access to that. We got Forever Sci-Fi, longtime member here on YouTube, saying, hail all. Hail to you, Forever Sci-Fi. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate you. Let's see, King and Rumsky tagging to say, does Joe Rogan know about this interview? I imagine that he has to. I feel like he is usually pretty well in the know with these kinds of things, and so I'm assuming that he's going to be listening, paying attention to it. It's going to be very interesting because of the fact that Elon Musk is not your typical, he's not a Republican, right? He is not your typical conservative voice. And so it'll be interesting to see what direction he decides to take the questioning. If I'm going to be honest, though, it really, to me, gives so much more credit to the Trump campaign to be going onto places like X with Musk, because even though one could argue, oh, well, he's giving him money, he's supporting him, they're not in full agreement on everything. There is actual disagreement between those two. And so just to go into a space where you are much more likely to get pushback, you're much more likely to get criticism, is always impressive. I mean, it was the most impressive to me when Trump ended up going to the National Black Journalist Conference. I mean, that was about going into about as unfriendly of a place that you could possibly go. And yet he still went, even after all of the shenanigans that happened before that event even happened. So again, obviously we're not going to go full on politics tonight, but I do think that it is still definitely worth commending in those specific instances. It'd be like if Kamala Harris had actually decided to, go to do like a Fox News town hall in a very conservative city, like that would be maybe an equivalent to it. But of course we know that she's just not doing anything, because clearly they're trying to play the basement campaign and just only go to friendly places, only do friendly interviews, or not even do those even. They don't even have a platform yet. But again, I digress. Mr. Wingster, who's a member, saying, so is Monday a permanent thing now? Yeah, Mr. Wingster, where you been, bro? Where you been? Yeah, we made that official about a couple of months ago, I feel now at this point, that we are officially moved to Mondays. And the reason why is because Tuesday night's main event kept creeping up earlier and earlier and earlier. And it just wasn't fun anymore to have a lot of the audience just not be able to show up for that stream. And so 100 people said Monday nights would be better. Now, I have not seen those 100 people show up yet consistently on a Monday night. But hey, we're doing what we're doing. We here are what we are. Remember, Sci-Fi says, move to Monday to avoid Jeremy. Now you've got to go up against Trump and Elon. Yeah, pretty much. Though this is a one-time thing versus the more consistent Tuesday night's main event. Gigan Rumsky, is the PC working better? Hard to say. I haven't had to do as many reboots recently, which is nice. But I also haven't done anything different. I haven't really uninstalled anything or run any of those programs to check things out. So I don't know what exactly happened, but it seems to be working a lot better. Mr. Wingster says, Odin, you are not excused. I'm writing this excursion down. No, how dare you? Orange Hat says, I'll be watching until the Trump interview. Then I got to go do my own stream, Monday Night Rants. Absolutely. Shout out to you, good sir. Kimberly G, howdy, Odin and chat. I currently have that bug, sore throat, fever, and headache. If I stop chatting, it's the NyQuil kicking in. Well, Kimberly G, I hope that you start feeling better. Lord knows I know what that is like because I had that last weekend. Very, very happy to finally have been over that, but I'm definitely still feeling some of the effects. Still got a little bit of stuffiness and things of that nature. Still definitely drinking the tea with the honey. It's a magical thing. I don't know what it is about it, but it just automatically makes me feel just that much better. So anyway, thank you all again for being here tonight. Tonight we've got some things to talk about because Deadpool and Wolverine has officially crossed $1 billion at the box office, just as I had predicted it would based off of those opening and especially those second weekend numbers. And this movie is still tracking very, very well. Very, very well. So let's go ahead and pull that up right now. We have right now looking over at thenumbers.com. And as you can see, these are the weekend estimates of this past weekend. The third weekend for Deadpool Wolverine, third in a row for it to be at the number one spot, making $53.7 million, only a 44% drop from its second weekend. And remember, the second weekend was about a 54% drop. Let's go ahead and actually go back in time, right? A 54% drop. Where it made $96.8 million in its second weekend. And that, of course, is after it made around $211 million in its opening weekend. So this movie is honestly just destroying all estimates and is pacing very well. Pacing so well, in fact, especially after that incredibly strong opening weekend, that as of right now, this movie is still doing pretty well up against the likes of Inside Out 2. These are the numbers right now. $493 million as of this point in the release, right? Not including the Monday numbers. Those will be out tomorrow. But $493 million for Deadpool Wolverine, rated R movie, much smaller audience as far as capabilities are concerned, versus $469 million at the same point of release for Inside Out 2. Now, some people have been pointing this out, saying, well, if you actually look at every single day, this movie has been losing to Inside Out 2 ever since its first Tuesday. That being said, when you compare the first Friday to first Friday, and you look at the other numbers, that Sunday number, oh my goodness, versus that Sunday, right? And the fact that when you look at how big the difference is between these two movies, right, you have that first Wednesday, $19 to $30 million, the advantage there for Inside Out 2. You have maybe a couple of days where there is a massive advantage for Inside Out 2. In general, the numbers are still very, very close. Like, let's go ahead and look at the weekend numbers, 15 versus 17, 21 versus 22, 16 versus 18. So because right now Inside Out 2 is only slowly chipping away at the lead that Deadpool Wolverine still has at that same point of release, it's the reason why when you look at the chart up here, right, when you see this line and you see this comparison, right, you see that if this line continues to track, right, if we see right now this track seems to be going in the direction where it might be able to flatline maybe around here, like it's going to start to slowly curve, and maybe flats out maybe around 587, maybe that is when you start to see, right, where it goes like maybe like this. And that's where I think the advantage will go ultimately to Inside Out 2. So I said this in my box office breakdown. I would not be surprised to see a film like Deadpool Wolverine domestically be able to get to around 600 plus million domestic. And Inside Out 2, obviously still making money right now at 636 million at domestic after 59 days. So it would not surprise me if, again, you see this film obviously end closer to 650. And then the Deadpool Wolverine domestic and closer to 600 million. So I do think Inside Out 2 will probably still end up edging it out. But I've said this now many, many times. It is really sky's the limit for Deadpool Wolverine. We could still very much see this film continue to perform. We could even potentially see the film somehow even edge out a longer term performance in that comparison, right? Could we see the movie finally win in its Monday after this weekend, right? 16 million versus 18, right? Dropped around $10 million. Inside Out 2 did drop $10 million from its third Sunday to third Monday. So if we see a similar drop there, then that would seem like it would indicate the third Monday for Deadpool Wolverine would be around $6 million. But could we see it hold stronger? Again, only time can really tell, and with very little competition especially, and as you all know, competition does not really make that much of a difference in my own humble opinion, because if a movie is really, really good, even down the stretch, it will continue to make money even with competition. Inside Out 2, I think, is a great example of that. Right? You've had a lot of films that, quote-unquote, are competing with it, and yet it's not stopping or slowing it down in any real way. I think Deadpool Wolverine will probably be able to benefit from that as well, because ultimately the film is a darn good time, and a lot of people are enjoying themselves with the movie, and it is clearly bringing back not only new people to the theater, it's also bringing a lot of people back for return viewings as well. So right now, this movie is doing incredibly well, right? This film is doing incredibly well. There is just no bones about that, and it's really cool to see. Really, really cool to see. So anyway, let's get back into the chat. First, we got at 743, Mr. Wingster saying, "Don't worry, Odin, Elon, and Don have nothing on your beard." Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Ben Dowdy, welcome to the chat. Forever Sci-Fi, we've gotten into the days of AI crowds and campaign releases. How long before Disney releases AI images of full theaters for bad movies? Well, here's the thing, Forever Sci-Fi, it really honestly would not benefit them whatsoever, because money is what talks, right? So even if they show fake images of people in the movie theater, if it doesn't result in actual box office returns, those images don't mean a darn thing. So yeah, I doubt that that is going to happen. I doubt that they would actually even waste their time on that, because it really doesn't make a difference. It really doesn't change much of anything, right? Because what drives people out to the theater? The marketing. How effective is the marketing? How positive is the word of mouth? Things like that matter a lot more than the perceived images coming from a theater. Mr. Winkster saying, "Mondays are better for me anyway, so let's roll." Sounds good. Prince Screen, who's a member, hail to you. Rob D, hello Odin. I got the beer bug. Was very sick on Friday, not feeling sick now, but the test still says I'm sick. Well, remember, Rob D, that the stick tests are almost worthless based off of research that was done on them. And it's all about how you feel. So if you feel fine, hey, that's what matters. If you're not showing those symptoms anymore or feeling those symptoms anymore, then hey, to me, that is what used to mean that you were sick or not, right? Remember back in the day? It's kind of crazy to think about where we were as a society. We're still pretty far gone right now, I would say, but how much worse things were, where just because a test said you were sick, even if you felt nothing, even if you showed no symptoms, even if you felt no symptoms, kept you from living life to the fullest, like kept you from living a full and complete life. It's insane. It is truly insane. Carl Jacobs, what's going on? Yeah, we started a little bit early because normally I plan to start about 15 minutes after, right, around 7:45 Eastern, because I don't want to go on to Force of Light Entertainment's stream, but they actually had an earlier stream today. And so because of that, and because I know there's going to be a bunch of people that are going to want to jump over to watch the Trump-Elon Musk interview, I decided to jump on about 15 minutes early, just in case. Just in case. All right, Cthulhu, what's going on, brother? Time to say happy Monday. Wish you all the best. Blessed Monday to you as well. Jeremy Zakowski, Evening Odin, thanks for the cold you sent me last week. I mean, imagine if that's how sicknesses were sent. Be a scary place to live in. Prince Screen is a member. Man, I haven't been late in so long. I got to do better next time. Prince Screen, again, I did start early, so do not worry. This is not on you. I started the stream about 15 minutes early for the reason I just stated. Think Noodles, what's going on, Think Noodles? Hail to you. I feel like I haven't seen the Think Noodles name in here in a bit, so thank you very much for being here. The man with the orange hat, the man with the wrench, saying, do you believe that Disney will feel vindicated after Deadpool, Wolverine, and Inside Out 2 success? Do you think they will feel they can continue pushing their agenda over story after 2 movies that were not? Well, there are rumors and speculations going around that they have figured this out. The issue, of course, is because it's Disney, they've got so many films and so many projects already in the pipes, right? Already ready, already about to be released or in the process of being released, right? In the post-production process, in the case of films like a Captain Falcon, right? Where maybe you've got some reshoots going on. Maybe you've got some more reshoots that could potentially happen, but most of that's going to have already been done. Most of the work at this point probably is being done in the editing room, in the editing bays at this point. So even if they have learned their lesson, which again, there are some speculating that they have, because apparently there are certain producers that are no longer there. There's certain creative minds that are no longer a part of it. Again, I'll believe it when I actually see it. That's always been my go-to thought when it comes to Disney and any positive news surrounding their company and surrounding the culture that they have and the culture that they've been promoting. But so I think that they might have learned some things, but we won't know probably for another 4 or 5 years, because that's about how far out we'd have to go to get to newer projects based off of this newer mindset. So unless they are doing massive overhauls and massive reshoots to the point where they are just doing their entire movies all over again, which again, I just don't see them actually doing with the people they currently have in charge. Even if they decide to go that route, even if they do make a film like a Captain Falcon better in some marginal ways, it's not going to make up for the fact that they've got to make $1 billion about for that movie alone to make its money back. So, I mean, I honestly hope and I always pray that they've learned their lesson, that they are finally going to start making consistently good movies again. But it's going to be a while because of just how much of a machine Disney is. That being said, remember, they've also got another film set to potentially continue their upward rise, their upward recovery from last year, especially last year's losses, because Moana 2 has not yet come out. And even though I don't think Moana 2 is going to be as good as an Inside Out 2 as far as the quality, right? I've heard great things about Inside Out 2. That film was clearly planned as a sequel and treated as such. Moana 2 was a show. Moana 2 was going to be a straight to Disney Plus show, and they decided, hey, let's just turn it into a movie. That almost never turns out right. That almost never turns out the way that they want it to. And so I know I mentioned in my box office breakdown, and I've used this comparison before, it would not surprise me if Moana 2 ends up being like a Frozen 2, where it makes a lot of money, but as far as how people view it, how people receive it, probably not going to be as good, if I had to guess. But still, that money and money obviously does talk, I think will probably surprise some people. I think if anything is a sleeper this year, not that anyone necessarily outside of our space would be considering it to a sleeper, because I think there's a lot of people who obviously are all things Disney who are like, of course Moana's going to do great. Anyone actually paying attention to how Disney has done in more recent years knows that Moana doing well was never going to be a guarantee, and a lot of the only reason, in fact, that it's even a possibility at this point is because of what we've seen happen with Inside Out 2 and the likes of Deadpool, Wolverine, right? Those have really set the stage for those things. All right, Twisted Reality, what's going on, brother? Welcome back. Prince Screen, does Alien Romulus have a shot of beating Deadpool next weekend? It definitely has a chance, right? Because we obviously know that Deadpool is 3 weeks out from its initial release. So it's gonna, it's gonna be going up against a brand new film, and films like Alien Romulus that are right now, I think, projected to do tens of millions. I think it's around the $30 million range, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was the last estimate. Let me go ahead and see if I can pull up the box office theory charting here, and based on these numbers that I'm seeing, at least, yeah, I would say that that's probably what's going to happen. So here's, we have a box office theory. The last update of this was on the 9th, so just a few days ago. We'll get the official projections for this weekend the next couple of days. But according to Sean Robbins over on Box Office Theory, he was projecting that the range for the opening weekend of Alien Romulus would be somewhere between $41 and $51 million, which would be a average or a most likely scenario ending at $46 million opening, but also a very low projected total domestic of only $110 million. So again, very interesting to see that kind of opening, but then only that kind of ending. And obviously these are projections, and so these can easily change. But if it does open in that $40 million range, Deadpool Wolverine right now saw a $53 million third weekend, dropped 44%. At this point, Deadpool is looking to be in about that spot where it's going to drop between 30 and 40% from here on out, most likely. And I say that because if you look at the likes of Despicable Me, look at the likes of Inside Out 2, that's what they have been essentially doing, right? They had very strong opening weekends, strong week 2 holds, and then ever since then, they've had drops in those cases in like the 20s, 30s, maybe sometimes in the 40s. But for a rated R film where it's, again, a very specific audience that's showing up for that movie, I think that you're probably going to see it probably towards the higher end. So probably drops in the 30s and the 40s percentage-wise. And so if it drops by another third, then I think that we'll probably see Deadpool Wolverine be somewhere in the $35 to $40 million range for next weekend, if I had to guess. And that would mean that if this projection holds for Alien Romulus, $46 million, yeah, I think that we could definitely see the movie finally, we could see Deadpool Wolverine finally get pushed off the top spot. I think that that's definitely a possibility. Now, again, I wouldn't know much of anything, but what I do know when it comes to this stuff is you got to let a real mathematician go to work here.
Let us see a real mathematician at work.
So when you're dealing with those percentages, we're dealing with 35%. We can go into the Steiner math. Gotta throw a bone to Keely Chow at this point. You do the Steiner math, right? If you got a 33% chance of winning, but then that's only up when you're up against 3 people, then you add a 4th person in the mix, and you got a 75% chance of winning against that person, and that means that I got a combined total of 220% chance of winning. Again, I know those aren't the actual numbers. I was just trying to come up with it off the top of my head. But the fact is that if we're going to see 30 to 40% drops for Deadpool Wolverine from this point going forward, that would put the next weekend around 35, 40 million, maybe 35 max, 45 million. And so could we see it win out against Romulus? It's possible, but I honestly think the marketing for Romulus has been pretty good. I know that I'm going to see it on Thursday in IMAX. It's part of our homework for FNT. So, but even if it wasn't a part of my homework, I actually would potentially have some interest. I'm obviously a much bigger fan of Aliens versus Alien, because I like the fact that Aliens is much more of an action film versus the horror film that is Alien. This one seems like it's going to be much more of a throwback to the first film, right? A much more of a throwback to Alien, right? The original, the horror focus. Obviously, you look at the director and what the director has done previously, it seems to make a lot of sense. So if the marketing is any indication, I think that it's going to give people something that they will that some audiences will obviously, I think, enjoy. So the question, I think, is going to be, how much does it give fan service, or how much does it stick to the lore? How much does it match what a typical Alien film should be, is going to determine whether or not it has any staying power whatsoever. So once we start to get some early reviews from not critics, but from audiences, from real fans, I look especially for reviews from people like Jeremy Johns, who I think will probably be a lot more fair with it, as he typically is. Once we start getting those thoughts in, I think that will tell us, pretty early on, the possible prospects for that film to actually win in its opening weekend up against Deadpool's fourth weekend. Again, right now, everything is pretty much stacked against Deadpool winning again, just because, again, you do have this new movie. It is right now being projected in that $35 to $45 million range, around $46 million being projected by Box Office Theory, and Deadpool Wolverine right now is looking to drop another 30-40%, because that's just where it is right now in its release, and that's about what we could expect. And but still, it's probably be a strong second place. Unless, of course, Ryan Reynolds' wife, Blake Lively's movie, which surprised everyone, getting $50 million domestically. Yeah, you never know. If that film has a very strong hold, hey, maybe you have that. Maybe you have that film coming in. Now, stronghold for that movie would be in that 40 to 50% range, probably. And if we see something like that, could be close. It'll be interesting to see. All right, Mr. Roy, what's going on, Mr. Roy? Welcome back, Mr. Roy. Always glad to have you here. Think Noodles says, I know you're a stickler for bad CGI. I gotta know, what were your thoughts on the Snow White trailer? I thought it looked horrendous, especially the CGI dwarves and Bambi. Oh, yeah, it was bad. Oh, it was really bad, Think Noodles. Absolutely. It was atrocious. And it's sad because, and I know that there are people that just want to hate on Rachel Zegler and everything she does, and for good reason. Again, I think she definitely warrants the criticism because of the silly things she has said, but she is a good singer. She actually is a very talented singer. And so I was kind of sad that you look at how talented of a singer she is, and she's been cast in a role that she should not be cast in. It makes no logical sense whatsoever. And then you look at Gal Gadot being cast as the Queen, and actually she seems to fit that role pretty well. She based on what we saw, she seems to be doing a pretty good job with it. And it's not even that Rachel Zegler can't necessarily act or sing the part. It's just that, I'm sorry, it would be like if you decided to make a production of The Wiz in certain respects, right? And decided to cast that role of the lead, right, of that Dorothy character in The Wiz, and decided to cast someone like Taylor Swift. Could she sing the part? Maybe. Again, I've got my issues with Taylor Swift, so I would say no. But hey, there are people out there who think she can sing, that she can hold a tune. Maybe we pick someone like an Ariana Grande, who I think can absolutely sing. The sad thing is that she's let herself kind of go as this crazy pop artist, and it's just, again, it's really sad. She could have been a huge Broadway star and decided instead to go to the pop star route, and I think made a really bad decision in the long run. But again, if her idea of a happy life is money, plastic surgeries when she's in her 20s, I mean, unfortunately, that's kind of what she's going with here. But it'd be like casting someone like her in the role, in the leading role of The Wiz. You'd be like, no, that's not how that works. Well, okay, that's exactly what you have with Snow White. Why is she called Snow White? She has skin as fair, as white as snow. Like, this isn't even one of those, like, because you've heard me before say the race swapping thing is really one of the smaller problems that I typically have with a lot of these things. Because if the actor is good enough, they can easily surpass those things, right? When we talk about the character of Ariel, for instance, people are like, okay, yeah, traditionally we've always, every iteration of her has always been this. It's based off of this history, etc. Okay, but her character has never been, or at least in the film versions, has never been described in a specific way. You instead look at Snow White, it's clearly in the description of the character. It's like when you're reading the script for a play and it gives you the details of what the character's supposed to be. And it's like, this person's supposed to have very white skin. Okay. Can't get much clearer than that. But yeah, CGI, gosh awful. Singing, pretty good. But not saying much. Let's see. The R over on Odyssey. What's going on, brother? Kincaid and Rumsky. Missed some of your math? Feeling puffed about it. There you go. There we go. Glad to have gotten that in there. Forever Sci-Fi. Imagine filming all those scenes only to be replaced by a bad CGI dwarf at the end. All that money Disney made on Deadpool Wolverine is about to get flushed. And I mean, it's going to be before that too, man. Don't forget, they've got a whopper in Captain Falcon. All right, that movie, as of now, has a reported cost of over $350 million. And they're not even done with it yet. They haven't even finished their post-production. So, good Lord, man. And I know that there's going to be people dropping out because the Elon Musk-Trump interview should be starting just about now. So, again, thank y'all for being here for those that were. We're going to keep on going, though, for about another 30 minutes or so because y'all are awesome. And I missed y'all last week, and I feel like there's still stuff for us to talk about, especially Borderlands, which is a catastrophic failure at the box office. We just got some international numbers being reported, and oh boy, when you are set to have opened in the vast majority of the international markets that you're going to open in, and you're only making $1 million from all of them combined, at least as of this stream, oh boy, yeah, that's not good. Not good. So yeah, they're going to have a lot of money down the drain, absolutely, for Snow White. The one caveat I will say is big if here, if Moana 2 ends up being a half-decent movie, ends up being like an Inside Out 2, where it's like, oh, it's actually not too bad. It's actually pretty entertaining. It's actually on par with the first film in many ways. If that happens with Moana 2, and if they are able to survive Captain Falcon, it's a big if, and I don't know of any other major projects they have between that and Snow White. I'm sure there are several. But if they can survive those, Snow White may actually have a chance. I say that to also remind everyone that by chance, what I mean is, yeah, it might make some money at the box office, meaning it might make I wouldn't say $1 billion, but I would say maybe 700 million, 800 million. The issue there, though, is the cost of that movie probably has skyrocketed so much, that's not going to be enough to make up your cost. So I would say even in the best case scenario, you've got a film that's still not breaking even if the market's looking a lot more kinder and friendlier towards the Disney audience, or rather towards the Disney properties, as it were. Let's see. The R over on Ozzy saying Disney hasn't figured out squat. The Gina Trail shows they are lefties and want the right to fire people for it and lie about them as well. Oh, the Gina trial. Well, here's the other thing too, right? We have to keep this in mind. All right. Because even if, when we say that they've changed, we don't mean that they've had a change of heart, the R, okay? What we mean is, have they finally realized and have they finally accepted that they cannot take the losses that they've been taking on projects, continuing to preach nonsense, right? So we're not saying that they've become benevolent people. We're not saying that they've had a come to the Lord moment, right? No, what instead is being thought of is, have they maybe realized, you know what, we have to actually start to focus more on telling good, fun stories rather than on preaching and promoting stuff in our actual content. That doesn't mean that they become good people, right? So you can absolutely say that they've changed on the business front, on the business side of things in this specific light, right? With the way the films are being, pushed going forward. At the same time, they can also be the same despicable people who are going to continue in their lawsuit against someone like Gina Carano, right? So both things can be true at the same time. Now, I've also said I am very doubtful. I will believe it when I actually see it in this specific case, right? That it's hard for me to believe that they actually have changed, because right now we've had two great films for them, right? We've had Inside Out 2. All right, this has been a huge hit for them. This film is on the cusp of getting to $1.6 billion. Has a chance at 1.7. Probably ending somewhere in that range, right? 1.6 to 1.7 billion. They have a movie in Deadpool Wolverine as a rated R movie of all things, crossing $1 billion after 3 weeks, just like Inside Out 2 did. And if Inside Out 2 was able to leg out to 1.6 billion as a rated R film, this one could easily get to 1.3 to 1.5 billion dollars, if not more. So they're on the upward progression, right? They've got the high ground at this point. The question is, are they going to be able to do anything with it long term? They got too many projects left in the pipe, right? They've got the Agatha show that no one's going to watch. So that's going to be a catastrophic failure, okay? You've got, in the case of Star Wars, you've got this Goonies ripoff, which also likely no one's going to want to watch. So you've got two major IPs there that are not going to be having any traffic driven to them because of the states of their IPs at this point. And that's after, in the case of the Marvel one especially, that's after this massive victory with Deadpool and Wolverine. But Deadpool and Wolverine, keep this in mind. Yes, on paper, money for Disney, absolutely, that is there. That is true. But there is no connection between what happens in Deadpool and any future Marvel projects. It's not a movie that sets up for anything. It's really, in many ways, a self-contained story. So it's not going to help them creatively unless, basically what they would have to do is basically scrap the movies they have going forward, or they would have to basically spend a lot of money just to insert Deadpool and Wolverine into the story somehow so that it could be connected. You want to know how I think they could actually make Captain Falcon profitable, even with the amount of money they spent on that movie? Put Ryan Reynolds in it as Deadpool, get Hugh Jackman in it as Wolverine. You probably are going to have to, you're going to raise the budget probably by an extra $50, $100 million just to get them into the movie. That might be how you do it. Maybe. But, I mean, come on. Doubt they're going to do that. And it would be so much money, it's not a guarantee that they would make as much as they would need to make it back. Carl Jacobs tags say there's no redemption for Disney. Again, morally speaking, I would agree. Now, I will say this much. All right, Disney is a company. So company is all about the culture being pushed and promoted by those that are in charge. So Disney is not beyond saving. As no person is beyond saving, neither is there no company beyond saving. However, in the case of a company, you need a lot of people to go away. You need a lot of people to get fired. You need a lot of people to get pushed out by the board, by investors, whatever it has to be in these cases, as a not being an expert on the politics of boards and CEOs and how that stuff works. That's the only way you're going to have any chance of changing the culture. And it's only through changing the company culture that you're actually going to be able to bring about any real change. Wayward Noodle says, why do you think Borderlands would cast a 55-year-old Cate Blanchett and a 65-year-old Jamie Lee Curtis in a video game movie? It's a great question. And honestly, I don't have a very good answer. And I don't think that they would actually have a very good answer either, because it does not make any logical sense. We're not talking about them casting older actresses in a movie where the roles actually would suit them, right? Let's jump over to that right now with the Borderlands film, right? $100 million budget, and the film only made $10 million in its opening weekend. 8.6, that's actually down. Remember, the initial projections were 8.8 million. It's actually only 8.6. And then internationally, we only have $1.4 million being reported. Now, this is coming out of Australia, Finland, Italy, Netherlands, and New Zealand. Look at these paltry openings, by the way. Australia, which can sometimes be a player, not a major player, but it can sometimes give you a few million, a couple tens of millions of dollars here and there. $330,000 opening weekend at 267 screens. Wow. Wow. So right now, not getting reports out of Argentina, where it has already released. It will release in Austria later. Not a massive market there, so don't expect much from it. Still waiting on numbers from Belgium, Brazil, Chile, Czech Republic, Finland, France. Sorry, we have Finland's. Waiting on France's. So France actually could end up showing up a little bit as far as it being a market. Whether they show up for this movie, I doubt it. But as a market, there's a lot more total that is available, at least, right? There's an audience that could potentially be there. I doubt it will. Germany, they get a later release there, so there's some money to be had there. Again, I don't think they're going to really motivate that crowd all that much. Waiting on Mexico to announce, Russia, Slovakia, South Africa, Spain, Turkey, UK, and Uruguay. So a lot of countries that have not had any reports yet, and usually what that means is there's not a lot of money to report, right? We're probably looking at a lot of these countries being underneath 330,000 and maybe closer to Finland's 51,000. I mean, that's just abysmal, right? Those are just abysmal numbers. So this movie right now, again, Massive budget for this film, and it's just doing nothing. Going over to my chart, as you can see right here, $167 million right now in the red. This is after an estimated budget of around 115. I think right now the range was reported as being between 110 and 120. So taking that average of around 115, that would mean a break even well north of $300 million when you take in today's standards. So yeah, this movie, $167 million in the red. All while It Ends With Us has already made its money back. Deadpool Wolverine continues to add to profits. Long Legs, profits. Despicable Me 4, profits. Quiet Place Day 1, profits. Massive profits for Inside Out 2. Bad Boys Ride or Die, making a fair amount of profits. And a lot of films making flops, right? We have a lot of flops this year. And this has been kind of the trend the last couple of years as well, right? Not a lot of movies making their money back. But yeah, Borderlands, I honestly get back to your initial question, Wayward Noodle. Why would they cast them? Since it's not because they fit the roles, because apparently, especially the role played by Cate Blanchett was supposed to be a 25-year-old or 20-something-year-old. I mean, look, I think that Cate Blanchett's amazing. I think that she's a great actress, and I think that she could probably play any role. That doesn't mean that you're going to fit the role. That doesn't mean that you're going to, make sense within the role. And then the Jamie Lee Curtis one, I have no idea. Because even those two actresses, as talented as Cate Blanchett is, none of them have name recognition to the point where they're going to bring people out to the box office. So ridiculous. Gary Banjo Sandwich Worthington, what's going on? Gary, welcome back. Kikin Rumsky, that's the stuff. Glad you like that. Prince Green, happy belated 1-year anniversary to our beloved Meg 2, The Trench. How dare you, Prince Green? How dare you? Keely Chow, no problem. I did what I could. Hardwick, what's up? He says, Chris Gore, who tends to be reliable, said that the Marvel Studios recently mass fired all of its woke activist employees, but that the results won't show up on screen for 3 to 4 years. That's exactly what I said, Hardwick, about the impact, right? So even if something like that is true, you're not going to see that on screen for a long time because they've got way too many projects in the pipe, as I said. And here's the thing, right? You mentioned they fired, according to Chris Gore, they fired a lot of their woke employees. However, that means probably a lot of the lower level ones, right? And so that honestly makes me wonder. It's like, yeah, you might see a lot of that political messaging stop getting into content, but that does not automatically mean then that you're getting good content, because those people have to then be replaced with good, competent writers. If there were writers that were actually fired, I would actually really like to know the makeup of the people fired, of the people let go, right? Was it mostly from the writing room? Was it mostly from the writers' rooms that those people were fired? Was it mostly from the producers' rooms? That, again, what place were they getting fired from? And ultimately, if you still got people like Bob Iger at the top, if you still got people like, in the case of Star Wars, Kathleen Kennedy on top, you're not going to have any massive changes because you're just going to get people replaced who have either similar or near similar views as the people that were fired in the first place. Maybe it's just that they are just not as outspoken. I mean, so it's definitely not a save yet at this point. Rob D says, Disney announced Toy Story 5. Can't say I'm surprised. I think they have a good idea with toys versus tech. I think the film should end with the toys being revealed by social media, and it makes kids interested in toys. Here's the thing, Rob D. I don't care. I have been so ticked off at what Disney has done with Toy Story, because my son, baby Thor, all right, he has recently got into a kick where a movie he loves watching right now is Toy Story 3. And I remember when we were watching it the first time, again, a couple weeks ago, because again, when he gets into a certain mood, we'll watch it, once a weekend for a few weekends in a row. And so we've watched it a few times over the last few weeks. And the first time we did it, I still get emotional when you have that end sequence where Andy is playing with his toys for the last time. There's such a beautiful message there. There's such a beautiful moment. And it just reminded me of, man, Disney, Pixar, they used to be able to make stories like this that could hit you in the soul. And it just makes me so mad to look at that movie, which is a perfect ending, to the Toy Story universe. And I know there are some who are like, oh, well, it's the ending of Andy's story. It's like, no, that movie was played out as the ending of that universe. And then what did Disney do? What did Pixar do? They got greedy and they said, nope, let's make another one because Toy Story 3 was huge. And then they made 4, and 4 sucked. 4 was an abomination. Yeah, it made money at the box office. It was still creatively bankrupt, an abomination, and pushed some really, really bad messaging towards kids. Not as bad as Wreck-It Ralph Breaks the Internet, but still pretty bad. Okay? The whole retconning of Bo Peep especially, it was just like, man, y'all are really forcing things now. So there is no path forward for Toy Story at this point. I'm sorry. Toy Story 3 was the end. Everything since then and everything that will continue in the future will just be a massive cash grab, and it's going to be soulless. Let's see. Submariner, what's going on? Think Noodles tagged to say, mine asking what the streaming and video schedule is going to look like with school back on. Yeah, it's on the website, ombReviews.com, and I've announced it previously. Monday nights, 7:30, 7:45 on most nights, because of the amazing ladies over at the Force of Light Entertainment channel. But it's going to be Monday evenings, 7:45 p.m. Eastern Time, going about an hour to an hour and a half every Monday night. And that's the only stream that I have planned. We've obviously also got the I was going to say Friday night's main event. We also, of course, have Friday Night Tights on Fridays, and the Salty Saturday podcast. Those are still on as well. King Rumsky, time to say, why is Jamie Lee Curtis not retired yet? I don't know. She was fine in Everything Everywhere All at Once. I thought that she did okay in that one, but other than that, hasn't done much. Cthulhu. Yeah, we've seen worse box office bombs. What's the English Channel swimmer movie make again? Again, if we're talking about net losses, Borderlands is definitely going to be up there for one of the biggest box office bombs of the year. I think it's important for us to keep that in mind. Yeah, since you brought it up at Cthulhu, let me pull my chart back up here for a second, right? So Borderlands, 167 million in the red. Fly Me to the Moon is at right now 131 million in the red. Furiosa, 174 million in the red. We're looking at just $100 million plus losses here. The Fall Guy, $110 million in the red. Let's see. Madam Web, $103 million. What's kind of amazing to me is that Madam Web is now not going to be the biggest box office bomb of 2024. In fact, it might actually even be lower on the list. I don't even think it's going to crack the top 5 anymore. Right now, the biggest bomb of all of them, though, is actually still Argyle. And the reason why is because for Argyle, they spent, I honestly still cannot believe that they spent as much as they did, right? $200 million to get the rights for Argyle. Huge loss. Huge loss. So yeah, $255 million for Argyle. So Argyle probably will end up going as the biggest box office bomb. We might look at that number and say, all right, how much was the actual budget versus how much was spent for the rights? But again, we're talking there about just pure losses at that point for that movie in almost every single way. So yeah, no. Right now, Borderlands is set to lose between 100 and 150 million. This is going to be one of the biggest box office bombs of the year. I know I don't think I tracked the swimming movie because it just wasn't doing much of anything, but I also don't think it cost a whole lot either. So I don't think it's going to have losses anywhere close to that same level. But I digress. All right, let's see. Hardwick says, the only thing about the Snow White trailer that seemed good was Gal Gadot's performance. Felt the same way about the Kristen Stewart version. Theron's scenery chewing was the one good part. And then, of course, you're reminded about how Charlize Theron is an insane person who abuses her children. So even her potential talent... And actually, I will say this much. I'm going to take that back because I don't think she is talented at all in that movie. In fact, she overacts to such a degree that it's bad. You will do this for me, huntsman. So bad. Garbage. She's done better roles, even though she is certifiably insane. But again, I mentioned that earlier. Gal Gadot's performance looked pretty good. Keely Chow has to go. Absolutely, Keely Chow. Thank you very much. I still need to get some more ice cream. Definitely can't sing right now. Voice is definitely not 100%. Prince Screen had to say, is it fair to say Borderlands will be 2024's Expendables? As I just mentioned, right, it's going to be up there. It's definitely going to be in the top box office bombs of the year, but it's not going to be the biggest. Right now, that's Argyle's, very, very safely so. Think Noodles, I say, did you see any of the announcements from D23? Did any of them excite you? No, because think about what they announced. Everything that they've announced is a sequel or a reboot, and they tipped their hat already earlier in the year by saying this is basically the direction that they were going to go. But what's crazy to me is that they think, well, hey, Inside Out 2, a huge hit. Deadpool Wolverine, a huge hit. Moana 2, set to also be a huge hit. Wait a minute. That's what we need to do. We just need to keep making sequels and prequels and reboots and just continue doing that instead. Especially the whole sequel stuff, right? That's where we've really seen a huge push, is just let's continue these stories that have already gone on for long enough. And so I think that the next problem that Disney's going to have is they are actually let me backtrack for a second. I've said this before. Disney's problem is twofold. One, they're creatively bankrupt, and two, they overspend. The creative bankruptcy does not go away by focusing on making more sequels and threequels and whatever, right? It just continues to show that they're even more creatively bankrupt than we gave them credit for. The issue, of course, is though they're choosing properties that do have some pretty sizable IPs, pretty sizable built-in audiences that they feel like they can milk for money. Okay? However, that's only part of the problem. So even if you get that, the other big part of the problem is that they overspend on everything. As well as Deadpool is doing, you didn't need to spend $200 million on that movie. That was a movie it could have made for $100 million easy. Maybe a max of $150. But spending $200 million to make Deadpool Wolverine, no, doesn't make sense. Inside Out 2. You don't need to be spending $200 million to make an Inside Out 2. If they can make a Despicable Me 4, any of those movies for $80 million, max $100 million, I'm sorry, there's no reason that you can't spend $100 million less on an animated movie. So Disney still has a massive spending problem. So even if they're able to get the right properties, even if they're able to get the right built-in audiences, because they're still overspending, what they're going to do is they're going to do the same thing like they did for Marvel. They're going to do the same thing like they did for Disney. For Marvel, for Star Wars. They're going to burn out their audiences with mediocre crap, and they're going to have nothing new and nothing original to build off of. And so they're just creating a short-term solution to a very long-term problem. Because with all of this focus, especially on these continuing stories, when you look at the very few original concepts they do have set up, those are almost doomed to fail. Because who's going to care about any new story when not too far behind it's going to be the next Toy Story or the next whatever? So, yeah, none of the things that I've been seeing, I haven't really been following D23 very closely because I just don't really care much for what Disney has to offer at this point. But everything that I have heard, it's just been, oh, really? Another one? Lord. Hardwick. Based on the trailer, Rachel Zegler's performance seems completely wrong for Snow White. She comes across as smug and mincing. Yeah, well, again, there's a lot of things that are off about her not fitting the role. But yes, I think that's a part of it too. Gary Banjo Sandwich saying, am I the only one who liked Borderlands? Apparently. Though, again, I will be critical because you did give it one of your famous decent scores. So it's like, did you really like it? If you liked it, I would say you would have to give it a rad score. Decent means it's fine, it's okay, it's not good, but you had fun. That's at least how I look at the decent score. King and Rumsky said, did Prince Screen say you'll be attending the 1-year anniversary celebration of Meg 2? Okay, look, I know that you and Prince Screen wish that y'all could jump through the the forbidden door, right, between platforms and have a bros night so that you can, curl up together with your popcorn watching the Meg 2 together. I know that's what y'all's dream is, But I'm not going to be there, okay? Y'all got to find another adult in the room to keep y'all separated, all right? Because it ain't going to be me. I'm not going. By the way, it'd be hilarious if just one day I randomly have time and Meg 2 just happens to be available and then I just decide to watch it. I don't think I'm going to find time to do that because there's so many other things I'd rather watch, but you never know. Never say never. Icthulu. Let's see. Taz say, yeah, I seriously doubt they replaced all the woke employees with anything other than more woke employees. Hollywood isn't a bastion of political objectivity. Yeah, exactly. That's the other big point of it too, right? Is just because people are fired does not mean that they are not being replaced with the same kinds of persons. And I go back to, I think, what's even a more important question, which is, okay, but from what departments did they get fired? Because if they fired a bunch of interns, okay, guess what? That doesn't change anything. You know? If they changed a bunch of artists, probably doesn't change much of anything. Writers is probably the one place where you could potentially see change. Right? If they fired a huge portion of their activist writers, that could be that could be big, right? That could actually make and have an impact. Abomination hanging out over in Odyssey. What's up, brother? Saying Toys vs. Tech sounds like a good premise to a Small Soldiers sequel. Ooh, yes. Yes. Now, I don't want a Small Soldiers sequel. It's been too long since the original. And we live in the era where those movies just tend to not be very good when you try to make a sequel to something years after you should have. But Hardwick. Chris Gore also said that while Marvel mass fired its activist employees, Lucasfilm did not. It was on Drinkers After Hours stream, and the Critical Drinker released a clip of it. Yeah, and again, that does not surprise me whatsoever, right? And that's also to the point that I was making. That until you actually take care of the people at the very tippity top, you're not going to change the company culture. Until Bob Iger's gone and you replace... Again, there's a twofold thing there. Bob Iger, Kathleen Kennedy, they need to go. They need to be fired. They need to be pushed out of the company. But you also then need to replace them with competent people. And right now, you can't even do the first one. And that first one is probably not going to happen. Especially anytime soon. But yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Icthulu tried to say, I think failure to sell any tickets is an equal qualifier of a bomb to losing absurd amounts of money. Oh, no, I agree. Icthulu, look, please don't take me wrong. I was not, all right? I was not saying that the movie was a success, okay? Definitely not. No one went to go see that movie, and so automatically that means it's a massive disappointment. What I was trying to point out, though, is that when in the grand scheme of massive disappointments, it's just not going to even be on the radar this year. Which, honestly, in many ways you could say is worse. Because at least when you're the biggest box office flop of the year, people are talking about you. When you are doing so bad that no one's even seeing your movie or talking about you, even in a negative way, to the point of being a massive loser, box office financially, yeah. Again, I guess you could easily say, hey, which one is worse? Oh, man. KK and Rumsky, LOL, Abomination, oof, got shut down by Odin. Let's see. Hardway says, D23 trailer for Captain America Brave New World has a scene featuring President Ross that's uncannily similar to the Trump attack attempt. I'm surprised they didn't cut it out. I mean, honestly, who's surprised at this point? Gary Banjo Sandwich says, how about a 30K subs Meg 2 watch along when Odin gets there? I mean, I'm going to be honest, Gary Banjo Sandwich. I don't think the channel is going to grow to that level. I'm going to be honest. One of the issues that life has thrown my way is that because I don't have as much time to dedicate to not just streaming, but especially to putting out more videos, YouTube only rewards channels that are putting out stuff almost every day. I mean, obviously the big established channels can get away with a lot less, but if you want to actually grow your footprint, you got to put in videos almost every day consistently and do so for an extended period of time to build up an audience. I don't have the time or the ability to do that. I do this for fun at this point, okay? And so unfortunately that means is that what that means is that the audience that I have is going to stay just about where it is. Looking at the numbers, I've, gained, when I gain 20 subscribers, I will eventually like lose 30. And like, it's just this yo-yoing where it's like, I'm staying just about where I am. And I'm fine with that. I'm okay with that. But yeah, if that was happening, right, if YouTube finally started to treat all channels fairly and that potential was there, maybe we could do that. I know that Matthew Kadish for Salty Nerds was playing around with a new feature. Apparently, YouTube is allowing some creators to put super chat goals. Where it's like, well, if you get to a certain number of super chats, you can say that you'll do something when you get there. So maybe something like that could be in the future where it's like, hey, if we reach X thing or reach X goal, then we could do something like that, but probably not anytime soon. Let's see. Cthulhu saying, I thought the second half of Meg 2 was fun. The first part was boring as, yeah. Yep. Just seems like a very unnecessary sequel to me. All right. Rob D says, Rachel Zegler's Snow White, I think, would actually sell if it was a spoof. Oh, you expected me to make supper, Zegler Snow White. That would require the writers of the film to be funny, and I just don't think that is going to happen. Cthulhu, oh, certainly this is a fun conversation about movies. Much respect. Absolutely, Cthulhu. Absolutely, man. And that's why I love my peeps. I love my peeps because they keep it real, and we can have these fun nerd conversations. Tina Guzman. What's up, Tina? Welcome. Kate Ramsey, thoughts on the passing of Susan W. Former CEO of the Tubes. Look, I obviously never wish ill will on anyone. I believe she passed away after a long battle with, was it cancer? It's never, I would never hope that or wish that on anybody, even people that I don't like. At the same time, it doesn't change the fact that I thought that she did a terrible job as CEO. I think that she drove the company into a very dangerous direction that is continuing to be pushed into. But obviously, I do as a personal antidote, hope that she was able to make right whatever wrong she had done in her life before her passing. I'm sorry, right? I just, that's all I can do. All I can do is hope that she was able to find her way and was able to accept Christ into her heart and was able to have a full conversion and amendment of life. It's very, very hard, very rare for that to happen. But again, praying for them, praying for her, for the repose of her soul, and for anyone else who's in a similar situation. Because again, I would never wish that on anybody, and at all. Let's see. Gary Banjo Sandwich says, "Go Bots." Abomination says 30K subs is a lot. That would be 150,000 back when Subway was doing the $5 footlongs. Autobots roll, says Prince Scream. Harwick, I wonder what chances are that Gary will make Snow White homework like he did with The Little Mermaid. Ironically, he still resists Shad's attempts to get him to watch Cinderella 2015. Yeah, which is sad because that's actually that was actually a good one. That was actually a decent one. Crazy enough, right? So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Oh no, that one absolutely is going to be homework for sure. If and when that movie gets released, yeah, that's going to be homework for sure. No doubt about it. Who knows? Maybe there's something out there that will save me from that, but you never know. Let's see. All right, Cthulhu says here, Super chat goals. Why does it sound like an OF turn for YouTube? Oh boy. Yeah, let's hope not. Let's sure hope not. Tina Guzman says, watching you on my phone and watching Data Cobra on TV, Elon got DDoS attacked. What? I mean, I can't say I'm too surprised because why would they not want to destroy what potentially could be a massive win for Elon and a massive win also for Trump with younger audiences with that interview? So a DDoS attack. So is the stream? Is the interview still going? Did it start? What happened? Obviously, I'm not watching. Mr. Wingster, good night, Odin and Peeps. Good night to you. Thank you for being here. We'll start to wrap things up in a second. Let me just double check to make sure I have covered all the things that I want to cover. I believe we have. So get y'all's last minute comments in, and then we will wrap things up. Let's see. Prince Screen says, will there be conflict with Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot considering their opposing views on the conflict in the Middle East? It sure doesn't seem like it. I mean, in interviews that they have had, in the last few years. It seems like they are in pretty good spirits or on pretty good terms. And I don't believe that Gal Gadot has made any necessarily controversial statements one way or another. She's obviously very proud of her background, of her history. So I think that they probably won't have much conflict based off of what we've seen so far. Let's see. Tuna Guzman says it hasn't started. Oh goodness! Wow. I wonder if they would be bold enough to say, let's just bring it to Rumble. I honestly don't think that Rumble's infrastructure could handle it personally. I just don't think they could. After the issues that they had with the national convention coverage. But good Lord, man. It's that kind of stuff that just is going to put people like Elon that much more into wanting to help and support, you know? Anyway, Gary says, Evan T makes you watch stuff so you can enjoy the show better and interact in the chat. Yep. And also too, I mean, I typically, a lot of the things that are homework are things that I would probably watch anyway. It's also good just to be able to have that as a background. Really, the next thing that we are set to watch that I'm dreading is Rings of Power, because that first season was just so abysmal, right? But it is also fun to talk about those things. Let's see. The R. Speaking of things passing, I'm glad the evil of the Olympics has passed. Oh, agreed. Oh, absolutely agreed. For sure. Yeah. Though I will say this much, right? As much criticism as I can have for the country, as much criticism as I can have for the people running the show, I do still think it's so cool to see athletes who are the best in their sport doing what they love at such a high level. I won't say too much because I won't say too much, but let's just say that I know one of the persons who was able to win at the Olympics, and it was really, really cool to see. And so just seeing special moments like that, I think, helps make up for a lot of the atrocious nonsense that is also prevalent there, right? It's kind of like with movies. It's kind of like with Hollywood, right? We know the evil and the corruption that exists within Hollywood. We're disgusted by a lot of the things that come out and the things that are being supported by them. And yet we still at the same time do get gems, and we do get things that we can support. We do get things that we can find some joy in, right? And that reminds me, I gotta give a huge shout out, because this actually comes out, I believe, tomorrow on physical media. Let me double check my sheet. Yeah, tomorrow, in fact. So one of the very few good films to come out this year. All right, one of the very few good films to come out this year is this little beauty right here. All right, so I got to give a shout out to Universal. All right, Universal, who is in charge of distributing this film on physical media, sent me this 4K review copy of The Bike Riders. Man, I love this movie so much. It really was such a surprise. I know that there's some people out there who are like, nah, the history of the actual story. Look, I'm just talking about this as an individual movie. This is a really good guys movie, I would say. It's like a guy's drama is a great way of describing it. And you have just phenomenal performances all throughout the movie. You have Austin Butler doing a great job, Tom Hardy doing a great job. The lead actress, Jodie Comer, also phenomenal job in this movie. And I'm actually really excited. I think my wife might actually like this movie. I know it's got some violent stuff, and she doesn't typically like the violent stuff, but yeah, it's a drama for men, I think, is the best way of describing it. It's really good. So y'all know, bonus features include Johnny, Benny, and Kathy, the era of the Bike Riders, feature commentary with writer-director Jeff Nichols, and more. So this is the Collector's Edition 4K Ultra HD, and it comes with the 4K Blu-ray and digital code. So again, available tomorrow. Shout out again to Universal for that. All right, let's get to these last comments, and we'll go ahead and end the show. Let's see. Kane Remsky, what is your favorite movie about ice cream? Ooh. Favorite movie about ice cream? I don't know of any films directly related to ice cream that I can think of off the top of my head. Oh, wait a minute. You know what? I have an answer. It's not about ice cream, but it features an ice cream sequence. It's a film from back in the day called Blank Check. Holla if you hear me. Blank Check. And there's a scene when they go and he gets this like giant thing of ice cream. And every time I saw it, I was like, oh, I want that ice cream. Anyone get that? That's a deep cut right there. Blank Check. A film I thoroughly enjoyed back in the day. Wayward Noodle, good night to you. Thulu, enjoy your show and chat. Thanks for another week, another great week of entertainment. No problem, man. Thanks for being here. Hardwick saying, some of the Rachel Zegler's fans are attacking Gal Gadot over the very issue. The actresses themselves haven't spoken about any rift between them on the subject. Yeah, to me, honestly, many Hollywood types are probably very similar to the Supreme Court justices, right? They are so diametrically opposed to one another, and yet in person, they get along. They're fine. They're friends. That's kind of how it seems like to me. Rob D, what's a TV show that's only on DVD that you'd like to see on Blu-ray? Oh, I know there's a couple out there. A lot of the Disney and Nickelodeon shows from back in the day, especially Nickelodeon shows, would be cool to see. I can't think of any good ones off the top of my head right now, though. Forever Sci-Fi, looks like X is experiencing a DDoS, not surprised. Good grief, man. Hardwick, Bentho, what do you think of Tom Cruise's Olympic stunt? I only saw like a brief clip of it. It looked cool. He's done crazier things, but it looked pretty cool. King and Rumsky, did you know the breakdancer from Australia? For the sake of everything. Yes, it was. And clearly, you know, she won gold and was amazing. I'm so proud of her. Steven, your thoughts now that we know it's CGI dwarves and Snow White trailer that actual actors pick we saw? What do you think happened? Honestly, I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if they decided to switch over to that. It also wouldn't surprise me if that actually was the plan all along. I think we're still gonna wait and are still possibly waiting for the full truth to come out. Steven, do you think you'll see Deadpool Wolverine again, or is one time enough? I'd like to see it again. It's more of just about time, ultimately. Hardwick, if Gary makes you all watch Snow White, hopefully that will give Shad leverage to finally get him to watch Cinderella. I doubt it. Abomination, Blank Check. Yep. Cornetto Trilogy, says Gary Banjo Sandwich. Yeah, but I mean, they don't really have a lot of good ice cream being shown there, Gary. I'm just going to be honest. Like it's a cute reference that's in all the movies, but Steven, do you like green matcha ice cream or churro flavor? I don't think I've ever had either, but churro sounds lovely. Cthulhu, wait. Ziggy Piggy, eat the pig, ziggy, zig. The Ark, and I God bless. Breakdancing in the Olympics. I will say this much, dude. Like, when you look at actual breakdancers, it can be a sport. It absolutely can be. Tina Guzman, amazingly bad. Forever Sci-Fi, if that had been the plan, wouldn't they have worn motion capture suits? Again, it could be, but I guess if we're talking about the images that were in the field, most people who saw that did not think that those were the actual actors. And I think it was RK Outpost that was really trying to push this when everyone was talking about it, and I fully agree with his take on it. Those honestly look like stand-ins. So it wouldn't surprise me if those actors were actually stand-ins for where they would eventually be putting the CGI creatures. So it still actually could happen. But again, I don't know at this point. Hardwick, do you like coffee ice cream? It's okay, I guess. I'm not a huge coffee fan in general, but Tina Guzman, Elon is on now. Dang. Wow. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, says Abomination. Okay. Oh, okay. Gotcha. All right, that's going to be it for me, everybody. Thank y'all for being here this evening. Thank y'all for having around 30 people all night, and a lot more than I thought we were going to have with everything going on, but apparently a lot of technical issues going on X right now. which again is very sad to hear, because obviously I know a lot of people were excited to watch that interview, but we'll see what happens, I guess. Anyway, thank y'all for being here this evening. This was a lot of fun. I got to go get some tea to heal the voice, rest the voice, and maybe try and see if this interview is actually going to happen, and see what it's all about. But anyway, thank y'all again for hanging out tonight, everybody. I love you guys. Y'all are the best chat out there. Seriously, it's always great. Glad to be back this week, back on a regular schedule at this point. So yeah, cannot wait to see y'all next Monday evening. Again, that is the new time, Monday evening, 7:45 Eastern, unless we get earlier streams from the lovely ladies over Force of Light. If that happens, I might start a little bit earlier just to make sure I can go on for a solid hour 15 plus, because once we get closer to 9 o'clock at night, things start to slow down over here quite a bit. So anyway, you guys are seriously amazing, beautiful people. I do finally have an August shoutouts video. Unfortunately, because Mr. Wingster joined today, it's not going to have his name in it, but I hope to have it in very, very soon. Anyway, you guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your day, a rest of your week. Back at school, crazy, crazy times. Anyway, love you guys, and as always, God bless. And now for a huge special shout out to all of my Chosen of Valhalla members here during the month of August, starting off first with my people on Patreon, Father Luca Illick and Miss Martin Muses. Check out her YouTube channel by the same name, Miss Martin Muses. Also to my Subscribestar people, Matt317. Check out his Twitch channel by the same name, Matt317. And also to the K-Man. Check out his website, xtheboundaries.co. And lastly to my YouTube member, Mr. Roy. Shout out to you, good sir. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and video, check out the top link in the video description below where you get access to that. Also, you get access to a plethora of other things. You get your name listed at the end of every live stream and video, like you saw in those names that came up before this video started. And also access to a giveaways channel that I host over on the Discord server where I give away 4Ks, Steelbooks, Blu-rays, all kinds of stuff. So check that out if you're interested in that. Also, I have an exclusive podcast that I hold at least once a month, and it's always a good time, and you get extra bonus content with that also. So if any of that sounds interesting, again, check out that top link in the video description below. You guys are all amazing, and beautiful people, have a wonderful rest of your day, a blessed August, and as always, God bless.